Good morning. Today, we're going to discuss the Freud psychosexual theory. Freud psychosexual theory has five stages. This is the oral, anal, phallic, latency, and genital stage. Freud's stages of psychosexual development believe that personality developed through a series of childhood stages in which the pleasure-seeking energies of the id become focused on certain erogenous area. An erogenous zone is characterized as an area of the body that is particularly sensitive to stimulation. So during the five psychosexual stages, which are the oral, anal, phallic, latent, and genital stages, the erogenous zone associated with each stage serves as a source of pleasure. So it is here that we're going to find out what are the erogenous zones of its five stages. Each stage of development is marked by conflicts that can help build, growth, or stifle development, depending upon how they are resolved. So if these ecosexual stages are completed successfully, a healthy personality is the result. If certain issues are not resolved at the appropriate stage, fixations can occur. So there will be a problem while growing up. A fixation is a persistent focus on an earlier psychosexual stage. Until this conflict is resolved, the individual will remain stuck in this stage. A person who is fixated at the oral stage, for example, may be over-dependent on others and may seek oral stimulation through smoking, drinking, or eating. So let's discuss the different stages. First, we'll have the oral stage. The age range for this stage is from birth to 1 year. And the erogenous zone is the mouth, which means we're going to fulfill the desire of the mouth. During the oral stage, the infant's primary source of interaction occurs through the mouth. So the rooting and sucking reflex is especially important. The mouth is vital for eating, of course, for the babies, and the infant derives pleasure from oral stimulation through gratifying activities such as tasting and sucking. Because the infant is entirely dependent upon caretakers, okay, what are caretakers? These are persons who are responsible for feeding the child. The child also develops a sense of trust and comfort through this oral stimulation. And the primary conflict at this stage is the weaning process. The child must become less dependent upon caretakers. So this means that as the child grows old, okay, he must or she must, of course, become less dependent to other people. Too much or too little satisfaction can lead to an oral fixation or oral personality, which is shown in an increased focus on oral activities. This type of personality may be oral receptive, that is, have a stronger tendency to smoke, drink alcohol, or overeat. Next is the oral aggressive, that is, with a tendency to bite his or her nails, or use curse words or even gossip. As a result, these persons may become too dependent on others, easily fooled, and lack leadership traits. On the other hand, they may also fight these tendencies and become pessimistic and aggressive in relating with people. So, that is the oral receptive and oral aggressive. So, you have to look at it. Okay, you have to look at the differences. So oral activities, which is the oral receptive and the oral aggressive, is different from each other. Oral receptive means that they have a strong tendency to gratify their mouth through smoking, drinking, and overeating. While oral aggressive means it is a negative way of using curse words, gossip when they are adult, or even biting his or her nails, or even thumb sucking even if they are already old. Okay, so that is all about the oral stage. Next is the anal stage. The age range is from 1 to 3 years. The erogenous zone is, of course, the bowel and bladder control. It is through the use of the CR. They have to go to the CR themselves. They have to be trained in this stage. So during the anal stage, Freud believed that the primary focus of the libido was on the controlling the bladder and bowel movements. So the major conflict at this stage is toilet training. That's why I told you a while back that they have to be trained to use the CR, the comfort room, or the toilet. The child has to learn to control their bodily needs. Developing this control leads to a sense of accomplishment and independence. So, according to Freud, success at this stage is dependent upon the way in which parents approach toilet training. Parents who utilize praise and rewards for using the toilet at the appropriate time encourage positive outcomes and help children feel capable and productive. Okay? Freud believed that positive experiences during the toilet training stage serve as the basis for people to become competent, productive, and creative adults. However, not all parents provide the support and encouragement that children need during this stage. Some parents punish, ridicule, or shame a child for accidents. According to Freud, inappropriate parental response can result in negative outcomes. So, as a parent, we must always balance everything. Okay, we must not be too lenient and not too strict to our uh, daughters or sons. According to Freud, inappropriate parental responses can result in negative outcomes. If parents take an approach that is too lenient, Freud suggested that an anal expulsive personality could develop in which the individual has a messy, wasteful, disorganized, or destructive personality. Like, for example, the parents are always busy and they don't have the time to correct their child. Then that when the child grows old, he will become a messy. Okay, he will always become like that because he or she was not corrected when he or she was a child. If parents are too strict or begun toilet training too early, Freud believed that an anal retentive personality develops in which the individual is stringent, orderly, rigid, and obsessed with cleanliness, perfection, and control. That's why too much or too little are dangerous. Okay? So as a parent, we must always see to it that we are always there for our child. We need to correct them, but not too much. Okay? So next, the phallic stage. The phallic stage age ranges as from 3 to 6 years, and the original zone are the genitals. Freud suggested that during the phallic stage, the primary focus of the libido is on the genitals. At this age, children also began to discover the differences between males and females. That's why the children will see to it that boys have different genitals from the girls. Freud also believed that boys begin to view their fathers as rival for the mother's affection. That's why this Oedipus complex was formed. Oedipus complex describes these feelings of wanting to possess the mother and the desire to replace the father. Okay, however, the child also fears that he will be punished by the father for these feelings, a fear Freud termed conservation anxiety. Do you know what Oedipus complex came from? It came from a story wherein the child killed his father to marry his mother. So that's why Oedipus complex was named for that feeling of wanting to possess the mother. For the girls, it is also called as the Electra complex. Electra complex has been used to describe a similar set of feelings experienced by young girls. Freud, however, believed that girls instead experience penis envy. Eventually, the child begins to identify with the same-sex parent as a means of vicariously possessing the other parent. For girls, however, Freud believed that penis envy was never fully resolved and that all women remain somewhat fixated on this stage. Okay, however, psychologists such as Karen Horney disputed this theory, calling it both inaccurate and demeaning to women. Instead, Horny proposed that men experience feelings of inferiority because they cannot give birth to children, a concept she referred to as womb envy. Okay, while Prude suggests that it is penis envy for the girls, Karen Horney also suggested a womb envy to the boys or men. Okay. Next is the latent period, and the age range is from 6 to puberty. The erogenous zone, of course, is a sexual feeling are inactive. So we cannot determine the erogenous zone here. During this stage, the superego continues to develop while its energies are suppressed. So later we'll find out what does it means with the id, the ego, and the superego. So children develop social skills, values, and relationships with peers and adults outside of the family. So the development of the ego and superego contribute to this period of calm. This stage begins around the time that children enter into school and become more concerned with peer relationships, hobbies, and other interests. It is at this period or stage wherein the children wants to spend more time with their co-children, with their playmates and friends. It is building a relationship with their friends. The latent period is a time of exploration and with the sexual energy repressed or dormant. This energy is still present, but it is sublimated into other areas such as intellectual pursuits and social interactions. This stage is important in the development of social and communication skills and self-confidence. As with the other psychosexual stages, Freud believed that it was possible for children to become fixated or stuck in this phase. Fixation at this stage can result in immaturity and an inability to form fulfilling relationships as an adult. Of course, we cannot deny the fact that there are some children who doesn't want to mingle with other people. They just prefer to stay at home. That's why when they grow old, problems may occur in dealing with other people socially. And the last one, the genital stage. The age range is from puberty to death. The erogenous zone is, of course, the maturing sexual interest. Okay, it is here that the onset of puberty causes the libido to become active once again. During the final stage of psychosexual development, the individual develops a strong sexual interest in the opposite sex. This stage begins during puberty but lasts throughout the rest of a person's life. That's why in this stage we are already looking for a partner, okay, a relationship, where in earlier stages the focus was solely on individual needs. Interest in the welfare of others grows during this stage. The goal of this stage is to establish a balance between the various life areas. If the other stages have been completed successfully, the individual should now be well balanced, warm, and caring, of course, to other people, not only to himself. Unlike the many of the earlier stages of development, Freud believed that the ego and superego were fully formed and functioning at this point. Younger children are ruled by the id, which means it demands immediate satisfaction of the most basic needs and wants. Okay, teens in the genital states of development are able to balance their most basic urges against the need to conform to the demands of reality and social norms. That's why it's ego and super ego. So let's discuss the personality component, which is the id, the ego, and the super ego. In the model, there are three metamorphical parts of the mind: the id, the ego, and the superego. In the id operates at an unconscious level. It is our driving force. Okay? It seeks us to find pleasure. Kaya nga, it says pleasure seeker, and focuses solely on instinctual drives and desires. There are two biological instincts that make up the id, according to Freud. Eros, or the instinct to survive that drives us to engage in life-sustaining activities, and Thanatos, or the death instinct that drives destructive, aggressive, and violent behavior. So when we talk about Eros, it talks about how we deal with life, how we want to survive. Okay, and Thanatos, it talks about the instinct that drive us to become destructive, aggressive, and will have violent behavior. Okay, it also links into death. Okay, so let's have the ego. The ego acts as both a conduit for and a check on the id. So ego always correct the id. That's why it always checks on the id. Okay, working to meet the its needs in a socially appropriate way. It is the most tied to reality and begins to develop in infancy. Superego, the superego is the portion of the mind in which morality and higher principles reside, encouraging us to act in socially and morally acceptable ways. Okay? So this is our conscience, our superego. So let me give you an example. Like for example, the id wants you to have this girl. Okay, so that is your id. You want the girl. That is your pleasure to own the girl. But the ego says that, oh, you cannot have it. Okay, because she is already a boyfriend. Okay, so that's it. Ego. So meaning you are the ego is telling you to not to do anything. It is because the girl has already a partner. Okay? So the ego will tell you that you have to wait until they broke up or they will break up, okay, for you to get the girl or for you to own the girl by, of course, encouraging her to be yours. And the superego will tell you not, okay, to do anything, okay, even if they will already broke up because they might be okay with them again. So that's our conscience. Or in other words, when the id is telling us that you have to let them break, okay, do something, okay, for you to own the girl, then the superego will come in and tells you to not to do anything because that is bad. Okay, so that is all about the different development theories of Simon Freud. So if you have questions, okay, just of course uh, put in our FB group your questions and I'm going to answer them. Okay, so with that, let me just end this by saying that there is a mnemonics for the psychosexual theory of Simon Freud's. That is OA palagi. Okay, so remember, OA palagi si Simon Freud. Okay, O means oral, A means anal, P means phallic, okay, L means larynx, and G means genital. So, have a good day.